one of my themes of my work is that it takes something to help people that are really devastated. Like Jesus, like Isaiah. It talks about in Isaiah 58 about the fast that God has chosen, and it seems like it's all about, if you pour yourself out for the hungry and satisfy desires of the afflicted, then shall your light rise in the darkness and your gloom be as the noonday sun. The Lord will make your bones
Yes,
strong and you'll be like a watered garden. It's like, it says the whole chapter Isaiah 58 is like this. Is this the fast that
yes.
I have chosen to loose the bonds of wickedness and undo the thongs of the yoke, to let the oppressed go free and break every yoke? I mean, that's what we're trying to do. Like, when we talk against drug addiction, when we talk against the negative music industry, just trying to promote Satanism, like we talked about that one store in the mall, Spencer's, that has all this devil imagery. And I mean, it's like really Isaiah
There's a scripture
58.
that says, when you save one life, it's as if God looks at it as if you saved the whole world. Almost like the sheep and goats, whatever you do for the least, you do unto me.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember the scripture, but if you save one life, it's as if you saved the whole world.
Well, see, this
Sounds
is
like
what
Mother Teresa said.
we got to get people
Doing
involved.
something great can be innovative and all this stuff, but it could also be just doing something simple with great love.
Right. I mean, if we could
Saving
get
one life, it's like God looks at it as like, you did it unto me, and it's like you saved the whole world. That's how He looks at it.
And yeah, he'll give us the power to do that. But if we could get people doing this that are really depressed, that are really suicidal, it says, then your light shall break forth like the dawn. And the Bible is saying we have a light, and then your light shall break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall speed up speedily. That's just this translation is
Yes,
spring up
I had
speedily.
an amazing experience around scripture in Isaiah. That an outlaw of love, I put it on there on one of my spoken word CDs, but like something like that, then your light will shine in this grotesque darkness. We might be talking about the same scripture. We might be talking about a different one, a different translation. But yeah, I get it. I've experienced too where maybe
We kind of need like a certain amount of structure and planning of like what we're going to do. And what I'm trying to introduce is that this Isaiah 58 is kind of like a blueprint of a lot of what my work has been. That it's been hard. It's very hard to. I was talking to a lot of pastors.
awesome.
I was talking to a lot of pastors about this idea of hiring the homeless for 2 to 4 hours, to do different things because they're so. Most of the homeless, or a lot of the homeless, I mean, there's all different types of people that are homeless, but a large percentage of the homeless are not really able to say, "Oh, you want to hire me for a job and have me come in 8 o'clock in the next day? Sure, I'll do that." I mean, their life is too disorganized for that. But if you can get them, to do like a 2 hour little thing, it helps them to start creating value. And they're not creating value in their life. A lot of people are not able to create any value. And it's like, the reason why is because society is so ego driven, it's so power driven. Like the philosophers say, Nietzsche and Foucault, everyone cares about power, and even the psychoanalytic psychotherapists
Yes,
make that like a scientific thing. So if you can look at a
yes,
person and say, look, you think your act is so together, I could kind of deconstruct where you're at in a lot of ways. And it's like, if you can allow somebody to have some power that has absolutely no power at all right now, then you'll be powerful enough to let go of a little of your power. It's like but then the Bible will promise these people, your light will break forth like the dawn, and your healing shall spring forth speedily. It's like, getting people engaged in Isaiah 58 is kind of like a modus operandi, and it's very hard because even pastors are, a lot of them, I mean, there's a lot of great pastors, probably over 50%, I would definitely say, are good pastors. But there's a lot of pastors that are not really able to do anything but like do this specific little pattern that they're in. And that, I don't, so that's why I don't like think, oh, why don't we talk to a lot of pastors and do this stuff? It's kind of like, why don't we do stuff that doesn't slow us down? Like publishing, I need some water, doesn't slow anybody down, You know what I mean? It's like, there's certain things that don't slow you down, but once you put it in somebody else's hands, like a pastor's hands, or like, you think just go talk to certain celebrities, or, all of a sudden, it's like, it slows down the vibrations, it's like, so that's kind of...
What I'm visualizing as you're talking is you have so many brilliant ideas that you thought out for a long time, and some are new, and I have a lot of ideas, but say just with the ideas you talked about, so say like, you probably even have like, a painting that, like from your albums or whatever, or a logo, virtuism, but then you say you have, virtuous visual artist, virtuous poet, like a virtuous for hunger, and then like within those areas, maybe it's almost like, we can set it up, but then impart the vision on someone else then that we find that has the vision.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Manage that area.
I already have.
Do that area,
yeah.
And we could be almost like we're managing it, like because we can't do, like we have so many ideas, so we'll take simple, tangible steps, but all the tangible steps could be about a foundation.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, totally.
I love the think tank because that's how I'm wired, and like, but the reason, like, I feel overwhelmed as far as tasks, so that's why I'm trying to think tangible tasks, but whatever, but whatever.
No, I need that too.
Whatever time, it could change forms.
Right.
So I'm thinking that probably would work because some people might not have the idea, but they might have the leg power, or there might be that one person and then, but boom, they're calling, and we'll be a part of it and guiding it with wisdom, but also, they'll be able to, with the poetry, maybe there'll be several coffee houses that will have an open mic.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
That. And then, but maybe for like the publishing.
Well, Billy.
Got a yearly anthology. There was a local one in Northport for Christian people from Samantha's coffee house that they had put out. I didn't know about it until afterwards. I wasn't into it, but there's actually several Christian poets. I'm writing Northport right now because I'm like, oh, let me take it in the sun. I'm thinking, wow, I know several really good poets that are like, people love them in the secular realm, the poetry circles in Northport, but they're also Christian, but they don't really,
right.
Beat over someone's head,
Yeah, you have to, and then that's where you can pray, that God would help them to be more vocal about it. But, I've already seen the power of the virtuism thing take on. Like, there was these two, I used to put out a fanzine in the 90s, and it was kind of dumbed down. It was like, I was kind of dumbed down then too, but I kind of went through some arcs in my intellectual pursuits. But I was kind of like more, focusing on fanzine culture, and there were these two guys that were reading my virtuism.
It was relevant at the time,
Yeah. And there was Christian.
Blog or whatever, but at the time that was really. Think about it. That's how we got information underground. Really,
I know. Yeah, and these two guys were Christians, and they put out a virtuism, a big virtuism statement. It was like a declaration of war on nihilism. I still have it, but the thing is with like a lot of, I don't know if you've noticed this, a lot of young people who get involved in the arts and stuff, they don't continue a lot of times. They just kind of disappear. They don't want to take, like, the hardness. It's kind of like Jesus talked about the parable of the soils. Like some people build on rock, some people build on sand, and it's like, it's another thing.
A year or two.
Yeah, you kind of learn. You kind of learn because, like, we could get involved in this and meet some young people that, they seem like they're really into this, but like if you end up depending on them a year later, you find out they disappear. It's like, you don't want to take that personally. It's like, hey, well, that's just the way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Really, my forte is studying art movements and the Surrealist art movement. I know a lot about them and other art movements. And, kind of even looking at the 60s thing a little bit, but like if we look at like what we've already been talking about, the surrealists, like they had like a list of tenets, like a list of beliefs, and a list of predecessors, and like everything was kind of systematic in a way. And a lot of art movements were like that. It's like, we believe in these things. Like abstract expressionism was, into Eastern religions a lot and stuff like that. And, the Zen thing.
You want to do something like
action
that?
painting.
Well, I mean, like this size. Did it already?
Well, this Isaiah 58 could be like one tenet of it. It's like, what is virtuism about? Well, acts of virtue produce the same experiences as great works of art. And that you have to focus on the positive, in life, and that you, another thing is this, Isaiah 58.
Beautiful.
Isaiah 58 paradigm. Like, okay, there's a lot of people that are just sowing darkness, and they're only into consumerism, materialism, and it's like, like Kanye West, he like says he's a big Christian, and then I don't know what's happening with him now, but it looks like he got divorced and he's stalking his wife, and so it's like all this like.
I feel like he is, but.
Yeah, me too.
He probably is,
He's surrounded with this death culture.
Maybe has a little, maybe he's been, little, who knows? Sometimes people are Christian, but they're, spoiled a little bit.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, I guess I was saying what I'm trying to say, like why I brought him up is that just this idea that, you're not really supposed to be looking at the fame, like the consumerism, the materialism. It's like if you can. If you can deal with somebody in your life that is not really that loved or that popular, it's like the most popular people are really the people that are the reason why the world is the way it is today, whether if they're politicians, but even if they're, popular people on Facebook. And it's not like to fight, like we wrestle not with flesh and blood. So that, I mean, it's almost like virtuism almost like has to become a Christian art movement because, and I don't have a problem with that, because all these things are advanced spiritual concepts. They're not really like worldly concepts. So it's like, I think what I was saying is it doesn't matter who like is falling apart, like who's famous, what Christian TV evangelist goes next or anything like that. It's really not really so much about linking up with popularity. It's almost like reverse of that. But I mean, I don't have any pretensions of being like, I'm not. It's a type of arrogance to think that, somebody would seek to be unpopular or like shun fame or fortune or any of that stuff, even though it does look kind of dubious at times. I think the principle is like to just look at God in like what you're saying, like saving that one soul and seeing the promises of God from that. Like Jesus said, if you pray in secret, your Father will reward you openly. But if you do your acts of virtue in public, then that's all the thanks that you get from it. And I think there are deep psychological reasons for that as well. Because the part that's exposed to the world is like the Darwinistic dog eat dog mentality that a lot of people have. Even though it's like tried to be, it's like a lot of people try to say, oh, just do good in society like all the rich people do, like all the rich people are philanthropists and all this stuff. So I mean, I'm at home like in either camp. It's like the possible virtue is what we should go for, having a good job, doing these good things and stuff. But I think as artists, we could say, hey, you want to be daring, you want to be like Van Gogh, you want to be on the edge. Well, here's an edge, and it's not like we're saying we live.
We're going to have a happening art exhibit event, like as a happening, like with poetry or whatever, performance art.
Yeah.
Do you know that the Jesus movement, when it was in Larry Norman's house in the park, but like there was the time, when the Vineyard Church was starting, and he was one of the co-founders, there was, they were very much kind of like that, where, their vision was to just personally connect.
Right.
With Jesus, and it was powerful. So, like, it was so much that even a celebrity like Bob Dylan could come and stay, because they didn't focus on, everyone knew it was Bob Dylan, and I'm sure, some of the people might even have been fans, and so they were, so excited. I mean, I would be excited, but they had enough wisdom I could see how Larry talked to me about Dylan.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't have a very academic. Like they didn't have a very academic side to them. So it's kind of like I think with the virtuism thing, it's becoming a little bit more like art gallery, university centered. Where like I being a book dealer, like that's one thing I'd like to get people turned on to. It's like books as investments, because if you know how to pick books, you can if you got a spare couple shelves in your house, you could just find these amazing books. So many of them are so spiritual, even the modern ones. And like I can look at the modern university and see the spirituality in it. There's certain things you can go, oh, hey, you know about this sociologist Sorokin, or, he wrote this book on the Golden Rule and, all this stuff. And they're like, oh, yeah, he's the father of sociology. And so there's like all this stuff that, I think can be the seeds, the acorns. And I'm like you, like I'm a little bit overtaxed right now, like with responsibilities. But I do feel like God will make a clearing, like you were talking about, like touring and, traveling and stuff. And I do, like what I always notice with God is...
I see, like, how would it, like, almost like it should be a panel. Like I was at NYU and I did poetry there was a beat poetry symposium and they had the beat poets talking, but why couldn't it be, you talking about, like what you were just talking about with, sociology.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very easy to set up things.
It could be like how we're having different chats. It could be in front of an audience, that chat. And you can include different people each time. Maybe chatting.
It's very easy to get a stage at a university and just invite a bunch of professors.
Microphones.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like
a couple of chairs.
Yeah, I mean, as long as people are on target, like we were talking about earlier, we don't want people to sidetrack it or like come into their orbit. All of a sudden it's it's all about Black Lives Matter or something. It's like all those people have their groups. We have to make it focused on like a certain amount of tenets and kind of control the discourse. That's where you have to screen people. It's like, you don't want people to start taking their agendas.
Yeah, to propel art. I've had people that have had, with success in the movie business and poetry, that, one of these timely issues that can propel you into another orbit, and then you have more power to do whatever you want more. But for me, it's always been about, like you described me, like a multivitamin, my poetry of all different subjects, that ring true, but it's like a marketing nightmare as far as success. So I've managed to stay out of those orbits, but also be a part of them a little, So
yeah.
I kept like.
Well, I mean, it's amazing to like what I keep coming back to in my life is like being like not being a human doing, but a human being, and it's this idea like we need that time of putting God first to see what God can birth, in the world through us. And that's like not to say, oh, just go to church on Sunday. That the pastor's got it all handled. As artists, we can, I think what I'm trying to say is that in my own life, I've seen the need to know when to rest and have like God's spirit kind of come over me and recharge me, and not to get so uptight and like type A personality about all my projects and, oh God, I'm focusing on these things. But I think like what I've been able to do is I've been able to do a lot of audio recordings of like when I was in seasons of just trying to do like Isaiah 58 and stuff. And then now I hopefully it'll be like documenting, like we were talking about transcribing these audio recordings. I mean, I said that last 2 weeks ago, but the 2 weeks just went by so fast. It's like, I think like when Jesus said like, give everything away, like sell everything, give it to the poor and follow me. It's like, it almost takes something like that to like, I mean, of course we need to pay our bills and everything, but it's like, there's so much need for generosity in my life. And I think in a lot of people's lives where we just say, what are we really giving to God, and what are we really giving to like the network? I'm sorry you work for television, but it's like, what are we really giving to like, say the rare album industry or like the rare book industry or, you know, it's like there's so many other agendas, and it's like who can make their agenda number one? Like that's the real king, you know. It's like the warrior, king, lover, magi, like or wise man in the Jungian archetypes. It's like, is there going to be a king in the virtuism thing or kings? Are we going to have that kind of way to say, hey, this is an agenda, and this is an agenda should be followed because this is an agenda that we're finding in the Bible, and this is an agenda lined up with Jesus.